The problems with Suburbia. Hello guys, so today's video is on Suburbia. I'm filming this while I'm driving, so you might hear some noises. I might have to go on hiatus for about a month. It's summertime, so I think you can guess what's going on because I don't think I can take my laptop with me. So yeah. Now guys, before I start this video, I just want to give a weird little side note that has nothing to do with the video, but it does have to do with parenting. I just recently thought about it, so yeah. Here you go. There's this thing in parenting where parents want their kids to be comfortable with their opposite gender, right? And that's fine. But the thing is, some parents say stuff like, oh, I want my daughter to be able to tell her dad if she's on her period. That to me is wrong, okay? The wrong part isn't being comfortable with opposite gender parents, but it's like, why do you need to know the anatomy of someone who's not your wife, right? Now, if there's a dire situation and she doesn't get her period at the time she's supposed to, then maybe these things can be disclosed to the husband. It's not because the husband doesn't deserve to know, but it's because it's a woman's body we're talking about, right? It's not just like another body part. It's not, oh, my hand is hurting. It's something that has to do with the female reproductive system. I don't actually even want my child to be running around telling people, oh, I'm on my period. I only want her to tell me, really, during the first few moments of having it, so that I can make sure that she's okay during that time. And then when she grows older, she doesn't have to tell me. Am I gonna go and ask my son, like, hey, have you started growing hair? Has your started? No. So why is it the same thing with women that, oh, on my period? Yes, like a period is a continual thing and stuff like that, but it's also a private thing, something to do with private parts, reproductive parts. So why does it have to be disclosed to the opposite gender parent? It just doesn't make sense. Of course, the daughter has to be comfortable with her dad. I'm not saying she shouldn't be, but I'm saying that things that to do with her reproductive health do not need to be disclosed to the dad. If she chooses not to disclose those things, I'll just say we're having some issues with her, right? I'm comfortable with telling my husband if I'm on my period. It only makes sense. He's gonna sleep with me, right? But like, why does the dad need to know if his daughter's on her period? And I know that there's a stigma around it as well, and people just want to like break the stigma, but you need to understand the stigma first before you question, is it necessary to break it? Just because something is like expected of you in society doesn't make the expectation bad. To be real, I do think that's weird to just be running around talking about reproductive health, periods, and all of that. If the conversation needs to be had, that's fine. But like, having it on the dinner table as a daily conversation, I don't want to cultivate such a habit. Does it mean that I'm stigmatizing it? No, it just means that we don't need to have those things in our daily language all the time, and that's okay. We don't have to stigmatize something before we know that we shouldn't be talking about it all the time. Obviously, we're gonna have that birds and the bees talk, but I'm gonna make sure I tell my daughter the female part of it, and the male gets the male part of it from his dad, right? We're not doing mixing. I know it's weird. I know it seems like, oh, you're creating boundaries, but we're just trying to keep things clean, right? We don't want to be telling weird, dirty jokes to our opposite gender children because it kind of makes you look like a candidate, you know? I mean, I know that that's not most people's intention, but that's the implication. If we're going to have those kind of talks, it's going to be with same gender. I'm not talking to my son about nothing, okay? He can get that from his dad, and my daughter will get it from her mom. Anyways, I know that had nothing to do with the video, but it was just on my head, so I wanted to say it. These videos are not a result of the current gas crisis that's going on, but a result of my mindset change. So honestly, I'm gonna start with an anecdote about myself. So I did not realize Suburbia was a problem. Fast forward to me being 15, I become born again, and I truly start questioning all of my beliefs. And one of the things I jumped into was sustainability. And when you're in that space, you realize that, first of all, the way things are done in other parts of the world better than here, okay? Because they have public transit, which requires that you just get your ticket and you go on their train, on their metro, on their tram, whatever, and that will take you to places. And then you can just walk the rest of the way to your destination. It's just so much better, not only for the environment, because not everybody's using a vehicle, but for your wallet, because, you know, you're just paying a transit ticket. You don't have to pay for an expensive car. And also, it's better for your health because you're going to end up walking more, right? The people in the trains and the trams and all of that, the minute they get off, they have to walk or they bike to their destination. But they don't sit in a car all day in air conditioning and, I digress. Okay, we're going to get to that part. Yeah, that's what made me realize that suburbia is terrible, you know? And then when I went to school, I actually experienced, partially at least, what it was like to live a life of always walking around, always being active. Now, granted, I don't have a job. Well, I did for a little bit, but that was while I was still at home. But I didn't have a job while I was at school, and I wasn't really attending classes. But I still enjoyed a lot being able to walk around. The school had public transit, but I didn't use it because I guess I wasn't used to it. I also didn't see the point. They basically use the buses for 10-minute walks, and it's like, come on, I can deal with that, you know? In America, the mindset around buses is just kind of weird because it goes one way in one direction and the other way in the other direction. But what I loved about walking around at school was, first of all, I didn't need to use any gas. All right, I didn't have to jumpstart anything. I didn't have to pay an expensive fee. I'm just going to be walking 10 minutes every day to and from my place, right? So why should I take the car? Even if it does take a longer time, cars are sometimes more annoying to deal with, especially on roads that are already jammed with them. Just walking the destination yourself or biking there yourself, it's just kind of more, it's not a big deal. You don't have to park. You just drop your bike, or if you walk, you don't drop anything. You just go straight in the building. You don't have to do any prep to go in or come out. It's just very easy, okay? And the one thing I liked the most about walking was that it just makes you less lazy. Basically, our dining hall was not in the dorm, so you had to physically get yourself ready, okay, take a shower, make yourself look neat before you went out. Even though it's kind of forced or whatever, it motivates you to get out of bed, even if you don't want to. You have to for the sake of eating and stuff like that, right? If I had to go to grocery, I had to do the same thing. It just makes you productive in a interesting kind of way, whereas, you can just look like a slum in your car, right? The part that makes you productive isn't even the part about going outside and dressing up, but it's the part that you're getting up to walk. You're not just getting up to sit in another air-conditioned box where the car does the movement for you. And it's the same thing with going to a train station. Even if you are walking a little bit, at least you're up and walking. You're not just walking to your car and that's it. The rest is sitting. And even some trains, you can just stand up while you're on them. I really crave one day being able to do that. It's just a weird dream of mine. But anyway, yeah, it just makes you less lazy by nature of the fact that you have to get up and walk to the place you're going to. Even if for the rest of the time you're going to be sitting, you have to walk there. And pretty much 4 out of 7 days of the week, I would get 10,000 steps just because of that. And mind you, again, this was having no job. I would just go and explore during my free time at the school. Yeah, there was a point where I stopped going to classes, but when I was still going, I was still getting those walks, right? I had free time, so I could walk whenever I wanted, And it's also much more pleasant because you get fresh air, you're outside, you get to really see the buildings around you. You don't see them from these tiny windows in your car. You don't see it from just focus on the car in front of you, focus on the traffic light. No, you get to focus on everything that's around you and really just absorb your environment when you're outside. All around, walking and biking and public transit makes you more observant of your environment. And even when you're in a car, you can be observant of your environment. But the mindset around driving here in America messes up your perception of the car. Your car is used for transportation. It's no longer about leisure. It's no longer about fun. It's no longer about passion. It's just about transportation. And it completely makes it less desirable, even if you love your car, because you have to use it every day, because you're forced to use it for transportation, because you're stuck in traffic jams all day, it's gonna make you hate driving. The people who run the trains do it out of passion, so why can't we, but anyways, what I'm trying to say is that school really made me see and live the difference. When you have a job, you're going to be up on your feet all day. But the thing is, even if you do have a job where you're doing a lot of walking, why should that be the only place you get to walk? So let's talk about the problems of suburbia, because that's the title of the video. And from now, I've just kind of been ranting about how I feel about school and all of that. So there's this thing in America, right, that they do called residential zoning, where houses are in one area, shops are in another. I kind of see the point, right? You want people to be away from the city, from advertising and stuff like that while they're in their homes, even though we see them on our devices. But anyways, even though like the intent is good, what it creates is distance from shops, and distance from shops creates the need for transportation to those shops, and transportation to those shops in America specifically creates the need for cars. So it's just like, we could have prevented this by not having residential zoning. If you want to avoid having advertising and stuff near the place, then just ban the advertisements from a certain distance, right? And anyways, everybody needs grocery. If you're gonna feel tempted, it should be temptation for groceries, you know? At least that's a good temptation. The unintended side effect of the distance from shops is people doing things like they buy big fridges, they shop for a week's worth of stuff, and it's not necessarily about the environment, but it's just kind of a weird thing that is in American culture. You know, compared to the rest of the world, right? Everything is so big because you don't want to drive back to that place and waste more of your gas. It doesn't feel right, really. Like, you have these huge stores, Costco, Sam's Club, where you can buy everything wholesale, and it's like, we're not all restaurants. We don't need that quantity of stuff all the time. The problem isn't like we're getting these things cheap. The problem is the reason why we're getting them cheap. We're not getting them cheap because we don't have money to buy them. We're getting them cheap because we don't want to waste too much of our gas coming and buying them. So if you could walk to the grocery store, the price wouldn't be so much of a problem. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? You know, basically, like, people want things cheap so that the gas costs can kind of cancel out the cost of the groceries you're buying. But if there's no gas involved, you won't even have to worry about such a price. You won't have to worry if your prices are $1 above if you're able to walk 2 minutes to the store than if they're like a 10-minute drive away from you and they're $1 less, right? Which one would you rather go to? It would probably be the place you walk, right? Yes, you're paying more money, but at least no gas is involved, right? Anyway, so that's the problem with shop distance. And this one I hate. House sizes. Everybody wants or has a 2-story house. I just don't get it, okay? Is it a hot take to say that a couple doesn't need to live in a 2-story house? If you want to, yes, but does everybody need it? No. In suburbia, everybody has these huge houses, and even if you're not in suburbia, right, it's still this weird mindset of wanting to have a huge house. And it's like, why? You don't need all of that space. And even if you say, oh, it's for storage, there are other means of storage that you can use. Buy enough drawers, buy enough shoe racks, whatever you need for storage, all right? It's like, why do you have all of this space to yourself? And it's a waste of land. Just because you have a lot of something doesn't mean you should waste it. Because if you live in the mindset that, oh, because I'm rich, I'm gonna waste all of my money, that's how you lose it, right? What about the times where you need to squeeze? What about the times where you're really in need of that money, right? You're not gonna have it because you spent all of it thinking you had a lot, right? And the last thing is weather tolerance. This is something that is not really talked about, but it irks me too. When I was at school, right, and I was walking everywhere, that's when I actually learned how to dress for the weather. And that's the cringiest thing to say because I lived inside all the time. And yeah, oh, I don't have a job and all of that. But even in your job, right, you're still gonna be under that AC. And maybe this doesn't seem that important, but the problem with it is, if you're never used to the weather around you, you will never go outside. And if you never go outside, we know why that's bad for your health, right? And you're never going to be able to be mobile and get a walk, right? Until it's nighttime. We say make hay when the sun shines, but when the sun shines, we don't want to be out. The problem isn't the AC, okay? I understand being in Ghana and that hot weather, and even Arizona, Texas, places like that. Dubai gets up to 50, and that's in Celsius, okay? So it's basically double that in Fahrenheit. People have crazy weather. I'm not saying the AC is the problem, but the problem is when you can't live without it. Not only is it a waste of electricity, but you yourself, that's not really good for your body, right? Because then if you can't stand outside, you won't be able to walk outside. If you won't be able to walk outside, you won't be able to walk at all. Like I was saying in the other video about, you know, car dependency, the goal is not to eliminate cars. The goal is not to eliminate all of these things that are causing the problem. The goal is not to eliminate the AC. The goal is to get used to living without it. The goal is to understand when you need it and when you don't, right? So how do we fix this, right? All it comes down to is a mindset change. Most people who are living in suburbia don't see the problem with it, and I was one of these people. It was only after I became born again that I started looking into things. The thing that makes society change their minds is them being touched by something, right? So we can't pressure people to change their mindset, that shouldn't be the goal. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that for me, religion did it, okay? And I guess that's what it's going to be for most people. But again, it does start with the mindset change. By the way, the gas conservative driving video, which I am going to re-upload because I followed my own advice and I messed up my car. She's a little bit better now, but yeah, so I'm gonna remake that video. Okay guys, so I know I didn't really talk about the mindset change part, but it's because a mindset change is not something that you can manufacture. But anyways, this video is about to get to 30 minutes and I don't want to take too long to edit it, so bye.